Welcome to Harmony and Hustle, the Power Couple podcast. I'm your host, Lou Reynolds, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Sabrina Reynolds. And we're excited to have you with us today. So, Sabrina, tell us, what is on the table today?
Well, on the table today, we have how to stay focused on your calling when you feel like giving up again.
That's good. That's really good. So tell me some more about when you feel like giving up. What does that look like?
Oh my goodness. I have felt like giving up more times than I would really like to admit. I have gone into the closet and just bawled my eyes out saying, God, how is this even possible? I thought I heard you. I thought I was supposed to be doing this. And now I feel like everything has just gone topsy-turvy and maybe I didn't hear you and I quit. This is too much. I'm overwhelmed. It's not turning out the way I expected. I quit. That's what it looks like for me.
Yeah, I can understand that. There's times when I feel like I've heard the call. I know that I'm supposed to be doing something, but then I actually start in the journey of doing it and it is not going as planned. When the results are not happening the way that I expected, I can reach this level of frustration. And it inevitably winds up with me feeling like I've reached a place of I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed, and I just want to quit.
Yes. So tell me, what do you do in those moments when you feel like giving up? Because how are we even here today? How are we at this point where we're running multiple businesses and doing a podcast?
Yeah. I would say that there are times where I have to really pause in the crazy. And, there's times when I hear something from God and I'm like, this is the thing. And I'm going after it. I'm giving it all that I've got. And I might be just running after what I saw without really staying plugged in to what he has for me to do. And those things aren't the same. Just because he showed me something, it doesn't mean that I should be doing A, B, or C in this moment. He has something for me to do. But the most important thing that I can do is to stay plugged in to what he has for me. So sometimes when I've hit that wall of I quit, I give up, I recognize that I'm here for a reason. Something has gone off the rails. So I may not know what it is. I just know that something is amiss. Something's askew in how I should be feeling right now in this moment. I shouldn't be feeling this way. So I have to pause in those moments and I have to check whether or not I've really been plugged in. What's his plan for me? What does he have for me to do? So I would say getting myself to a place of really being plugged in.
Okay. For me, I hear you when you say you get a vision, you see this is where I'm supposed to end up. And I do that. And I'm like, okay, Jesus, I got it from here. Thanks so much. I appreciate you showing me this. Now I'm going to go ahead and implement everything that I see. Don't worry. When I need you, I'll call you. That is a huge problem and a struggle that I have faced over the years is getting that vision and just running. And like you said, not being plugged in and understanding that there may be a step that I need to take, but I might not be ready for the end goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And knowing that he's shown you something and he's given you a vision, that doesn't mean you have the whole picture, though.
That's good.
Yeah. Sometimes I start acting as if I have the total picture already. And so, I know exactly how to get here. This is what I need to do now. This is what I need to do next. And I start mapping out this plan. And he's like, you're not ready for step one yet. I just wanted you to have a vision of where I'm going to take you to. But me taking you there is going to be a journey. And so in order for you to get to that place that I have for you, you got to walk through some steps. And typically in my plans, those steps, I don't treat them as steps. They're just obstacles. So I'm just going to run around them. I'm going to go this way instead, and I won't have to deal with those things. And there were lessons to be learned in those steps.
Okay, so you mentioned staying plugged in, and you preached an amazing sermon, and it's called Stay Plugged In. And so I want to ask you, how do you stay plugged in, especially if you're that person who's the visionary, who sees it, and when things come, you get easily discouraged and maybe I didn't hear you. So how do you stay plugged in and not to take the ball and try to go for a touchdown?
That's so funny. You knew that you take the ball and go for a touchdown?
Yes, I know football. You taught me.
Oh, I thought you were going to say basketball. That's good. You actually knew the sport too. I appreciate that. That's
listen,
awesome.
If I didn't know, shame on you. Not on the.
No, that you're hitting on some things now where staying plugged in is not just about that God is the one who is going to give me direction. It's, am I going to listen to his direction?
Wow.
And so when I say stay plugged in, for me, that really means I have to have intentional devotion time where I am listening to what he has to say. You said something before, and it resonates with me because sometimes he'll tell me one thing and I will start doing 10 things. Now, I think I'm doing what I should be doing, right? Because God has shown me this vision and he told me this one thing, and these other things align with that. I should be doing them. They're so needed. And I start running. And so what I find is that the staying plugged in for me is my intentional devotional time where I'm listening to what God has to say. And I am really guarding against Lou's personal, I want to run, and hearing what he has to say is the next step for me to take. I sometimes don't celebrate the steps that he's given me to do because my mind is so focused on what the next step after that is. And that, I know what comes after this, God, I got this. And I'm starting to do that step without just completing what he's given me to do in this moment, doing it well and celebrating the fact that I got that step completed, and then asking him, what's the next step? And when is it time for me to do that?
That is huge for me as the recovering perfectionist. I didn't really take the time to celebrate the small wins because I had an end goal. And this is the end, and I'll celebrate when I'm done, when I reach that level of unachievable perfectionism. I would always feel like celebrating was complacency. I'm going to get stuck where I am if I just celebrate this one step. And that has really changed in my life, really redefining what success looks like, moving the line, and not just expecting success is only if I get to XYZ point. And in learning that, each step is a success. I got out the bed today. That is a success.
Success.
Woo, let's celebrate. Because honestly, there was a point of depression where I didn't want to get out of the bed. I didn't feel like getting out of the bed was an easy thing to do. And I look at that, and a lot of people are like, celebrate getting out of the bed. Well, you don't know where I've been. You don't know what I've experienced. Celebrating the fact that I showed up in a space where I felt less than, or I wasn't good enough to be in this space. Being brave enough to show up, even though my mind is telling me I need to go home and go back to bed. I've learned to celebrate those things instead of, hey, I closed 15 deals this month. That's the only way I'm going to celebrate the success. And so when you talk about that, just really understanding that each step is a point of celebration, and to pause and to really just appreciate this stage of life. That is something that helps me not to give up.
Yeah, when I think about the quitting aspect and the giving up, in John, Jesus talks about he's the vine and we're the branches. Sometimes when I find myself becoming like what I would identify as I'm self-reliant here, I've got the answers, I know the vision, and I'm running, it's because I've disconnected from the vine. I'm out there on my own, like I can bear fruit by myself. And we have to remind ourselves of what his word says. Jesus gave us that message for a reason. And basically, as a branch, none of the things that I need, the nutrient that I need, all that I need is in the vine. And so when I'm disconnected, initially a branch looks just as good disconnected as it does connected when you initially break it off of the vine. It looks normal. It looks like there's nothing wrong. However, it's not receiving any of those things that it needs. And so the fruit that's on it now, yeah, that's great. It's great fruit that's there. But eventually that branch is going to wither. It's going to decay because it's not connected to the vine. It's not getting the nutrient and the resources that it needs. And when I find myself at a place of, hey, I want to give up, it's because something's lacking. And when I recognize that something's lacking, I have to really pause for a moment there and figure out, where did I get disconnected? Because everything that I need is found in him. So if something's lacking, then I'm in the wrong space right now. Something is off. Am I disconnected here? Am I moving without having had a real, true conversation with the Lord about what he has for me to do next? So yeah, those are the things with staying plugged in that I think are so important.
That's really good. And as you're talking, it makes me think about the different areas that we need direction for when we're talking about our relationship with each other, how we parent, how we take care of my mom, how we're supposed to be showing up as siblings, as volunteers at our church, in business. This impacts every area of our life, not just the business aspect and the relationship aspect, but every single area of our life. If we're not plugged in, we're really not showing up in the spaces like we're supposed to. And when you mentioned the fact that the branch looks great when it's first disconnected, it's important to me to think about who's watching me, who's seeing when I'm disconnected, who's able to tell when I'm disconnected. You can tell right away if I'm miserable, I'm cranky, I'm aggravating you, or I'm fearful, or all that you see right away. But it's not just for you and I. When I'm showing up in other spaces, who are those other people that can really pour into my life and who can tell when I'm disconnected? I can't really hide it from you, but I can hide it from other people if I don't really have a relationship with them. Like, you show up to church on Sunday. Sunday is a great time and, it's a wonderful thing. But most people are not really in relationship on Sunday morning. Just, hey, how are you? But I feel like community is another way that helps me from giving up on our marriage, on our business, on our calling, the things that we're called to. And for me, this has been a lifesaver. We found out the hard way what it's like to be at a community, but not in community with people, because we showed up with this great smile, great look, everything's put together, everything's wonderful. Of course we're great, but the community that we were in wasn't really vulnerable.
Yeah.
You didn't really get people that were asking, are you okay? How are you doing? Young married folks that are here 6 days a week and working full-time jobs and now parents and all that stuff. And I just feel that being in community is more than just showing up in spaces, but it's being connected with people where you can be vulnerable, where you can really express what's happening. And even without a word, people notice you.
Yeah, that's again, I think comes back to being intentional. If you're in a community, then you're willing. Those are the people that are your inner circle. Really, is the way that I would say it, where you can show up and just be, and they'll understand that you don't have to be perfect. They're not expecting perfection from you. They're not expecting you to be great all the time. And those are people who can then speak into your situations and your circumstances because you have that level of vulnerability with them. They can be someone who's there to encourage you. They can be somebody who's there to hold you accountable. All of that is very important in the process of walking through those challenges that we face. But no matter what it is, whether it's business, your marriage, any other relationship that you might have, you're going to need a support system to really navigate that well.
Yeah.
Because we all face those challenges where we feel like giving up or just flat quitting from what it is that we've been called to. We're called to our jobs, we're called to our businesses, we're called to our marriages. So there's this diversity of calls that we have.
Yeah.
But we need a circle of people, and sometimes certain people speak into one aspect.
Yeah.
And other people speak into others.
Right.
That's okay too. It's just important that you do have those people that are able to do that for you. When you think I've got it all together myself, or I'll figure it out, that's when I feel like you're in the most trouble, because you don't have it all together. You don't have it all within you. You don't have all the answers. And it's okay. That was something that was difficult for me to really come to terms with, is that it's okay to ask for help. It's not that I thought I had all the answers. It was just that I thought that asking for help meant that I was weak in some way, or, I wasn't hearing from God. So I had to ask for help. And that person's going to look at me, in an unfavorable way because I need help and I shouldn't need help. But that's crazy. I had to come to terms with that's just nonsense and crazy. We all need help. And the folks that are willing to ask for it are the folks that are really smart. That's what I've come to the conclusion on. Asking questions is a key and vital part to being able to navigate through challenges.
Yeah. Smart people surround themselves with smarter people. Never be the smartest person in the room. You always want to make sure that you're rubbing elbows with people who have experienced something, been down that road, that could really support you, and you can get great advice from, and vice versa, people that you can pour into. I feel like early on in our relationship, we kept things between ourselves. First of all, we kept a lot of things internally within ourselves, but we kept a lot of things between ourselves, and we didn't really pull people into our circle, and we just didn't feel vulnerable. And like you said, we felt like we had to show strength and not this weakness by asking for help. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be blessed and highly favored, and everything's supposed to be great, and you're not supposed to have this, any weaknesses about you. So why would you actually invite people in? But I think in learning that lesson, we have really incorporated different people into different aspects of our life. So we have marriage coach, we have our friends that we have informal marriage counseling with, we have business connections and groups that we're with, even to the point of intentional inner circles that I meet with on a weekly basis to really figure out what's going on in my life. How can they celebrate me? How can they support me? And also that peer group that I'm doing the same thing. I'm asking them, how can I celebrate them? How can I support them? And these various circles that we have have really impacted our lives in such great ways that it's just I don't know how we survived. Well, we almost didn't survive without them.
Mhm.
And I love the fact that it's not just one circle, but we've got many circles because we have many callings in the different areas. We want to make sure that we're learning and growing. And what does it look like to be great parents in this season of our children's lives, who we're reconnecting with and sharing stories with and being encouraged by?
Yeah, I think that the process of determining what is right for you is really important. You're going to find that there are going to be certain aspects of your life where having someone who you can just, pour your heart out to, they're willing to hear you, listen, and give you some good counsel on what it is that you're facing. Accountability, encouraging you, whatever that might be and however that might look. And other times there may be groups that you want to be affiliated with that are going to do similar, if not the same type of things, but maybe it's for a different reason and a different setting. Like you said, Sabrina, there's a different call, right? So whatever those calls are that you have in your life, you're going to need a circle to surround you, to support you in that. And this is not in place of being plugged in to what the master has to say. So this is not, a replacement for my time with him. This is just that you have the proper surrounding so that, you people, we help each other. We help to uplift each other in those difficult times when we do feel like giving up.
Yeah, I agree. And what's another thing that you do to stay focused on your call when you feel like giving up? What else do you do?
I think your mindset is an important part of this process.
Okay, that's good.
Your mind can tell you things and you start running down certain roads because your mind has been feeding you a story. And if you start believing that story, all of a sudden you can find yourself in a place that you didn't even fathom was possible.
Sure.
You don't take on any venture, right? And go into any challenge or whatever the case may be, thinking, you know what? I'm going to do this. And in about 3 months, I'm going to give up. That's not how you began the journey.
Sure.
So sometimes you have to really figure out what's going on in my mind. Programming your mindset is so important. And the time that we take to be able to do that is essential. Your mind is your supercomputer.
Yeah.
And so how you program it, the programming you put into that computer is only as good as what you've programmed it to do.
Okay. When you talk about programming your mindset, for me, that is, what am I listening to? What am I hearing? Because the negative thoughts are, they're for real. They're there.
Yeah.
And what do we do with that? And you can't just let it sit there and think, oh, well, it's just a thought. I'm just going to keep moving past it. I have to be proactive when it comes to my thought process. And a big thing for me is books, listening to books, reading books, however I can get that book in. I'm gonna get a book. And one of the great ones that I like is Winning the War of the Mind by Craig Groeschel. That was a really great one. And it talks about rewiring your brain and setting new neural pathways and all this great scientific-y stuff, but also just down to earth practical tips on how to make sure that you're really thinking the way you should and you're proactively combating those thoughts that try to invade your mind. Another big one for me is the music that I listen to. I need something that's going to be encouraging, uplifting, that's going to push me forward, and that's going to really help me to stay motivated behind whatever it is. If I am motivated to be a better person, that is going to show up in how I am treating people, because now I'm not thinking, oh, I'm just terrible, I can't make it, this is not going to work, I quit, I'm overwhelmed, all those things that you say to yourself, that shows up in how you show up for other people. if you're walking around thinking, I'm no good, but then you're trying to have a date night, that's definitely going to interfere with our date if I'm constantly thinking about I'm no good, I'm not enough, this is not going to work, you know, that that's not good. So I want to fill my mind with good songs, good hearted things. You know, one of my favorite songs when it comes to relationship, it's Let's Stay Together.
Yeah, when I think about what I'm thinking, sometimes it helps me to be able to really dissect what led me here. And thinking about your thinking is challenging. Most people don't like doing that. I'm not going to promise you that you're going to enjoy doing it, because at first I didn't enjoy doing it.
What's your favorite word? What's the word for that?
Metacognition.
Yeah.
It's really taking the time to think about your thinking. And sometimes what happens is I'll take a thought and I'm like, why am I thinking about that? What is causing me to think in this way? And sometimes I discover this is not the first time I've had that thought. And then I start going down the road of tracing back to, when did I start thinking in this way? And the thought that I can trace back to one thought that wasn't exactly the same, but similar. And it's like I trace it all the way back and try to find, where did it originate? What caused me to think in this way, period. Now, sometimes I'll have a thought and I'll dissect the thought and I'll go, that was a trash thought. It was just garbage thought, right? It's like, just toss that. Just evict that from my mind is the way I treat that. But sometimes, even though it's not a good thought, it does have its origins somewhere, because I can start to see that it was a pattern. And I was thinking this, I was thinking that. By the time I trace it all the way back, it can be aligned to an event. Sometimes, just as an example, it might be something that I'm doing in one of our businesses, and it's an assignment that I have to do. Now, the thought today was, I want to quit. I am so done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. And then when I start tracing it, I realize that it goes back to a thought where I had, well, this is a whole lot for me to do. I'm doing way too much. All of a sudden, it comes all the way back to the very first time I had this particular task that I had to do. And when I had to do that task, I said to myself, this is not something I enjoy doing. I don't really want to do this. So it brings me to a place of, now I want to quit because of this particular task. But what I'm learning is that when I trace it all the way back, I discover that I just really don't enjoy doing this thing. I can do it, but I really don't enjoy doing it. And because of that, there's no joy in this. Fast forward, I've been doing it now for so long, and I've done it so many times that it's brought me to a place of, the thought has eroded into, I hate what I do. I don't want to do any of this anymore.
Okay. So you're processing the thought, you're figuring out where it comes from, you're digging deep to the root cause of the problem. So there's a thing that you do that after you've done all this thinking, you now have a process. What you call it, your decision?
The decision matrix.
Okay.
You're at a point now where you have to make some decisions about that thinking, about that thought. What was the cause? Okay, you've identified it. Check that off the list. But now what do you do? Do you do something differently with that task? He's just going back to the example. Do I do something differently about this task? Because clearly this task does lead me in this thought process or this thought pattern.
Okay.
So sometimes it's going to be, I might need to just delegate that task to someone else.
Okay.
Maybe I need to hire someone outside, whether that's a company or might be somebody who's an independent contractor, to do that particular task. Sometimes I put a time bound on the task. So you know what? I have been doing this. This does make me feel this way. I don't enjoy doing it, but I really only have to do this 3 more times. If I do this for the next 3 weeks, 3 more times, this will be complete and I won't have to think about this anymore. Well, okay, all of a sudden I've got like newfound energy because I recognize that it's time bound and there is an end in sight. I don't have to quit today. because I only have to do this 3 more times.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things I think about when you talk about the decision matrix and the application of it to our relationship. So when I am trying to figure out, okay, this is this thought, this is where the root cause of it is, what do I do with it? It becomes a point of, is this me? Is this something that I need to work on? Is it something I just need to get rid of? Is it maybe I shouldn't have even been thinking this in the first place? Or is it something I really need to say, hey, Lou, I really want to address this particular thing. When you say this, I'm triggered in this way. And here is how I feel when this happens. I think that we have this part of our decision matrix is, hear my heart. We take a moment to really express what we're feeling. And even if we're in the middle of an intense fellowship, we pause and say, okay, that didn't come out right. Hear my heart. This is what I'm really thinking and trying to communicate. And that, I feel like, has been a great help for us. Another decision we talk about is trying to find the good in that person as we are in the middle of that intense fellowship, to think well of them and not to assume that because you're disagreeing with me, now you're my nemesis. You're against me and you just want to tear my idea down. And, I think that is also helpful in the middle of our intense fellowships, is to really start thinking about what we're thinking about and why we're reacting in certain ways. I think that's helpful.
Yeah, there's a lot of times when we are talking through something and you might say something that triggers me to have a thought. Mm-hmm. And I don't address the thought in the moment. I just keep it moving. But if I leave the thought alone, like, it's going to circle back and come up elsewhere. And so then maybe later on you say something else. Now, this is true whether you're talking about your marriage relationship, a relationship with a friend, a family member, whatever the case may be, or in your business relationships. And so when the thought comes back up again, it may be something completely unrelated to when that initially happened, but it triggers that same type of thinking or thought pattern. And so inevitably, you're going to say something that might be completely disconnected from what originated with this. And it might be a simple, hi, how are you doing today? And then you blow up and it's like, I'm like, no. What do you mean, how am I doing today? You know how I'm doing today because you did this and this and this. And you're like, wait, what? Because I've played the story in my head and I've been having that thought pattern that's gone unaddressed. And so it's really important to address those thoughts. Okay, what happened? What caused me to feel this way? Where did this originate? And then decide, okay, was I being super sensitive in that moment? Like, what was going on inside of me? Maybe I was having a rough day and it just triggered that. Or maybe this is something within me that I need to address because I feel like it's an area of weakness in me. Or maybe I just need to have a conversation with you about, hey, you know what? This is how I felt in that moment, and be vulnerable to say, it made me feel this way. Whether that's logical, illogical or not, it's the way that I felt. And I want to address that because I don't want to have this continuous thought pattern.
Okay. So tell me, how do you push through now, related back to our call? How do you know when it's time to push and say, you know what, this is just my mindset. This is really something I need to get over, and just plow through that wall and keep it moving. Or this is a pause moment. I need to maybe not push through. It doesn't mean that I quit or give up, but it's a time for me to pause. Or is this a pivot moment? Should I be doing something different in the meantime, while this is still, being cultivated, how do you, what do you do in those moments? Like, how do you know when to, okay, I'll call it the 3 Ps, I guess, because I'm thinking about now, when you push, when you pull back, or when you pivot. That's pretty cool. I just thought about that right there on the spot, y'all.
So, the staying plugged in piece of this is kind of where we began. And that is really, really important when we stay plugged in. There's going to be occasions where we don't know exactly what the next step is. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean quit, though. Sometimes when we come and we ask, we need to come and have that intimate time with the Lord where we say, here's where I am. He already knows. He knows what you're thinking. He knows what you're going through. So sharing your heart of, this is where I am. I don't know what to do next. What's that next step for me, Lord? You have to be okay with asking the question and then waiting.
Ooh, wee. You hit on something that's a hard one. Waiting.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, because sometimes we come and it's just society and culture where there's an immediacy to our request. I need an answer to this now. Like when I go a great example of this is even what you see happening with people converting to streaming what they want to watch. Why is that? Because there's an immediacy. I want to see this show. I want to see it right now. I know it only comes on Tuesdays at 8:00, but you know what? It's Thursday and it's 2 p.m. and I want to watch it. So I'm just going to stream it in this moment. So we have that same approach with our prayer life, and we come to the Lord and we're like, here I am. I'm at this point, Lord. I need to know the next step. I need to know by 2:00 today because I'm going to make a decision. You're going to make a decision. Okay. So it sounds like you've already made a decision. You're going to do something, and we're not comfortable with asking and then waiting for the answer, because sometimes that is the answer. Now is not the moment for you to move forward in that thing because you're not ready. And we don't like that.
Nobody wants to hear that. Yeah. You're not ready, because we always think, oh, we're ready. Lord, you gave it to me, so I must be ready for this next stage. And I think another thing, when you hear wait, I feel missed opportunity. We're going to miss out on this opportunity. And if we don't act now, that act now or forever miss this low price.
Right.
You feel like you're going to miss it if you don't have an immediate answer. And I had to really realize that for me, a lot of that was based off of fear. What's the FOMO? Fear of missing out.
Yeah.
I always felt like I was going to miss an opportunity and be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And if I had just done this, I would be at this point now. And realizing that God cares more about my character than me checking something off the list on a to-do list or, a missed opportunity. So I think that's another thing we have to really think about is that hindrance or that fear of waiting, is that based in fear because you're going to miss something?
Yeah, there's certainly an element of fear that is contained within that. When we think about what we're missing out on, sometimes what we're missing out on is failure.
Yeah.
Like we could push through and you could find out really quickly. So we had a situation where we were pushing forward in something that the Lord presented, he put before us. It was such a great opportunity and we were excited about it and we're pushing forward in it. And then we hit a wall and we sought the Lord and we prayed. I was waiting for the answer. I didn't enjoy the answer that I got, but I knew that he was saying in that moment, it was pivot time. Mm-hmm. And, in our pivoting in that moment, felt like if we do this, we're going to miss out on all this.
Right.
Yeah. And what we discovered is we didn't see it then, but over the course of, I guess it was a couple of years, a year or two after that, is that, wow, had we continued, had we pushed through and gone down that road, yeah, it would have been devastating.
Yeah, not even a year. It was like 9 months. It was 9 months. And I was mad. I was mad. I was angry. I was upset. It was like, God, how could this happen? We had such a great heart behind this. And we were really felt like we were doing what you said we should do. And we're making announcements and putting stuff in the paper and we're doing all kinds of things and we're moving forward. We're thinking, yeah, we got this. This is our time. And to really get this no, it felt like it was a betrayal at that point. Like, God, you said this is the way we should go and this is what we should do. And now it's no. What is happening? We had all these great things going on. And yeah, when when we realized, oh, that's why you said no. You were actually blocking us from failure. But initially, it felt like the whole thing was a failure. And then I realized, oh, if we had pushed through any more, we really would have experienced failure.
Yeah. Financial ruin, really, inside of that
financial
situation.
Ruin is right.
Yeah. And that's why I want to also give this piece of our journey so that people can see. One of the things that we have found is that checking your 3 T's is vital inside of those situations where you feel like you've come up against a wall or a quitting point. It's really, really essential to check those 3 T's. And that's, of course,
time, talent, and treasure.
That's a whole episode unto itself. We'll definitely take some time to delve deeper into that. But it is a piece of that decision-making process that you have to embrace. If you don't know, if those things aren't properly aligned, it's going to reveal itself in ways that maybe you didn't anticipate. And you start having those feelings like, I want to give up, I want to quit. But it's just that something's out of line. When any of the 3 are misaligned, you can easily find yourself in a place where you feel like giving up is the only option.
Yeah, we'll discuss that a little bit further and how to assess that and what steps to take and all that great stuff. Yeah.
Great. Well, Sabrina, let's get in harmony with the things that we agree on.
Okay. Number 1, for me, it's we need to stay plugged in. Stay plugged into God, because the truth is we cannot do anything without him anyway. So why are we even bothering? What's this whole thing about if you're not really going to get the instructions that you need from God? And I look at it as GPS, right? If we are going to a certain destination and I don't know I know where we're supposed to end up, but I don't check the GPS to actually get there, or I try to get there just guessing, it's a stupid plan. It's just a stupid plan. It just doesn't make any sense. Pause. Stay plugged in to what God is saying. That's, to me, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that reminds me of the children of Israel with the cloud and the fire. And so they knew where to go. They had this spiritual GPS to navigate them on where they needed to go. But can you imagine with me for a moment that they just said, no, I know a better way. I used to go this way, when I was going to get water at the well, I'm just going to go this way instead. But that's exactly what we do. And when he is saying, this is not the way, we're like, no, I've got a great plan, God. Here it is. Here's my plan. And it gets me there so much faster. Yeah. And sometimes I look back and I really assess the times that I've done that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got there real fast. I got to that wall so fast. I quit before I even started really doing anything major. So, sometimes that's really what he's trying to do, is keep us in a place where we're relying on him. Mm-hmm. We face these challenges, we face these walls because it helps us to remember it's not us. It's not about you. It's about, are you willing to rely on him to get the direction that you need?
Yeah.
So that's a major part of it too. One of the things that I agree with that we've been talking through is having the right counsel, the right wise counsel around you, having that inner circle that you can go to or that just recognizes it in you when you need that level of support.
Yeah, I completely agree on that, because you need people to link arms with you, even when you don't realize that you need someone to link arms with you. Sometimes you'll be tossing an idea around in your head and someone will come and say something, and it's like, oh, that really, it does make sense, or that idea made no sense at all because this is not the way things are going, the economy or whatever is happening in society. Maybe that isn't the right path. But if you've got somebody who is linked arms with you and says, hey, yeah, that's probably not a good idea, or you know what, that's actually a great idea in this time and you should really push for it. You need people to help you stay focused on your call, on the mission, because if not, you just fall.
Yeah, for sure. And, with that, I would also just add to that, I agree that programming our mindset is essential.
Yeah.
If we don't take the time to have our mindset in its rightful place, then those negative thoughts that you talked about, they start to overtake our thought process, and we end up in a place where we're feeling totally overwhelmed, sometimes even ill-prepared for what is the next step that we need to take.
Yeah, and a lot of that overwhelm can lead to burnout. Your brain is fried and you're just, I give up, I'm burnt out, I can't do anymore, because your mind is telling you you're burnt out, you give up, you can't do anymore, this isn't for you, why are you going down this path, who do you think you are, who told you that you should be doing this? So mindset it's vital, it's super important. Yeah.
No, that's all good stuff. I think is really important for us to apply those things so that we can really reach for the things that we need to be reaching for, waiting in the times that we need to be waiting.
Yes and amen.
And knowing that he's in control of all things. And so even when you feel like a situation or a circumstance is outside of your control, that's okay. That's a great place. Just because it's outside of your control doesn't mean it's out of control. And so remembering that God has it all under control. Stay connected, and we're going to receive everything that we need, because everything we need is found in him.
Yeah. And you have to remember that in your hustle, you must pursue Yahweh and not my way.
We hope today's episode gave you something real, something you can take with you to build stronger relationships, a thriving business, and a life filled with purpose. Remember, life isn't about juggling it all. It's about finding that rhythm, harmony, or that flow that works for you. If this message resonated with you, please don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe, share it with someone you think needs to hear it, or drop us a comment, because your voice matters. Check out our website and keep up with us on social. Until next time, stay blessed, stay focused, and keep moving in your rhythm.